So my name is Maria Jauhiainen and I'm a lawyer. I've been working here with an engineers union for 15 years and with game makers, I think for 3 years or so. So for a while, and we heard that there's going to be some trouble at some workplaces. So we thought with Milla to start giving you some information that you might be needing when things sort of hit the fan as your workplace, because they have to go through some steps that you will need to have to know how they go and what you can do yourself. So something about the new cooperation negotiation law. What I was thinking about talking to you today mainly about is the change negotiations that you have to keep at your workplace, or the employer has to keep at your workplace when something like this happens, when they think that they don't have any more work to offer you. And this used to be, I think Nick online knows about neuvottelut, which used to be the cooperation negotiations just last year, actually, because we got the new law at the beginning of this year. So it was the 1st of January 22 that we got the new law. And now the new law is basically divided into 3 parts, but you don't sort of have to concern yourself so much about the others. So number 2 is the most important to you, I think, at this point. So there's the continuous dialogue, and then change negotiations, and the 3rd part is personal representation, but that is only when you have 150 workers in the company, and you will have a personal representation in the company administration. So that's sort of a different kind of thing. So in a company where you are going through the change negotiations, you usually do not talk about the 3rd part. And this is applied in Finnish companies, this law, that applies at least 20 workers. So after that is fulfilled, then the company has to go through these steps that I'm going to be talking about. And subcontractors or temporary agency workers are not counted in. So this 20 is only the like workers in the company. But I guess that, for example, the companies that we're now that are now headed for these change negotiations, this limit is reached. And then when we talk about the change negotiations, also those are divided into 2 parts. And then we have the lighter option, a lighter version, which is these changes. I'm not going to go into too much detail on them because they are the lighter version, which you have when things are still quite okay in the company. And then there's the heavier version. That's the one that you will be headed for. And then the company has to fulfill certain criteria when things like this are happening. And this obligation to negotiate stems from if the company is planning dismissals, furloughs. Furloughs the same as temporary layoff. But I just learned in 2020 that this is the right word to be used in these cases. Or changing full-time employment into part-time employment, or a unilateral modification of an essential term of workers' employment contract. So this is the one that you will be having. And in these cases, the company must have or think that they have the economic and or financial and production related grounds for dismissing you. And these are the grounds that you will be talking about in in the negotiation. So these are the things you want to know from the company, whether they really have these reasons to let you go or think about letting you go or not. And then the timing for these must be when the employer is considering the measures. So it cannot be done when the company has already decided that we will let all of you go. So all the options still have to be on the table when you start talking about them. And then the negotiations take place between the employer and also the employee representative who represents the employees. And if you don't have the representative, then you will have to represent yourself in the negotiations, which I think will be the case in the situations that we now have. So that's why it's good to know what is required of you in the negotiations. So before the starting of the negotiations, you must get a written proposal for the negotiations. And in the proposal, you must have the time and the place of when the negotiations will start and a general proposal on the issues to be discussed in the negotiations, which is usually why the company is thinking about having the change negotiations and what they think that are the reasons behind it. And in this case, I say in this case because it's the heavier situation where there are substantial changes at the workplace considered. Then you also must get the following information: the measures envisaged and the rationale at the company, and a preliminary estimate of the number of employees that will be subject to measures, broken down by category of staff and by measure. And then explanation of the principles according to which people will be let go, or how they will be picked up. And also a timeline when these things will happen or to be implemented. But in this case, it's very important that the company hasn't done any decisions yet. So still, once again, I emphasize everything has to be on the table still, so that things can be done differently. So the change negotiations in a nutshell is that we could save the working places for as many people as possible. Or maybe have the furloughs or some other measures also considered by the company so that working places could be saved. So that's the most important thing. And you must get this negotiating proposal no later than 5 days before the start of the negotiations. And if you get the proposal today, the negotiations can start 5 days from tomorrow. So you can count the days like that. And if the company does not follow that timeline, they are already breaking the law. So with this law, timelines are very important. So the company really has to follow the timelines and talk with you as long as possible. And now there's a new thing in the law that you can ask for any information that you think you need. In the old law, this was a little bit tricky to get the information, for example, economic reasons why the company was doing something stupid in your mind. So now you can ask for the numbers, for example, and if the information that you need and what is supposed to be discussed at the first meeting the company is not giving that to you, then you can postpone the negotiations and saying that we don't have the information for the first meeting that we need, so we have to postpone it. And in this case, it's good to remember that the longer you negotiate, the longer you get your salary, of course, because all the time of these negotiations, the company has to pay your salary, normal salary. So that's why it's also important to follow these rules. And it's good to remember because we didn't have this before. So if the company was not giving you the information, you didn't get it, and they were just stalling things and saying, yeah, you don't need it. But now you can say that we need the information, and if we're not getting it, you are not fulfilling your duties towards us. So we need the information. So you need to give that to us. And in the negotiations, it's not moving. Thank you. Now it is. Thank you. Sorry about that. So in the negotiations, we are going to be talking about, or you are going to be talking about the rationale, why the company is doing something, the implications, what is happening because of what the company is doing, and also very important thing options for the measures affecting the employees. So if the company, or if you can come up with something else that the company could do instead of letting you go, then this is the place to raise the issues. And it's good to let everybody know at these companies that since you don't have a shop steward that is usually representing people, everybody needs to be present in the meetings. And it's also good to have maybe an own meeting before you have the meeting with the employer, so that you can sort of gather your thoughts and think about the issues that you want to raise. It's very important that you are sort of united as a group. And yeah, and the limiting of number of persons covered by the measures and mitigating the negative consequences in these negotiations. You can also talk about social packages for people that have been let go, training possibilities, something like that. So that's also things you can have on the table, and proposals and alternative solutions are also to you that you can make in the negotiations. And I have a slide on that, which is a new thing and a very important thing also in the new law. So the new law is good. I'm quite happy with that. And you will negotiate, or change negotiations must take place in a spirit of cooperation in order to reach a consensus. But of course, these things are a little bit tricky, but this is in the law, how it should go. And it's also in the law to work constructively and seek to contribute to the progress of the negotiations. And yeah, so there also must be a draft action plan from the employer, how they will mitigate the consequences of any redundancies. So you must also get this paper from the employer, and this action plan must be seen as part of the change negotiations. So they have to contact the local authorities on job seeking and so forth. So they have to be active, and there's also part in the law nowadays, and I will add it to the presentation. I just remembered it now, but the company must also give you in these cases training or something like that worth your 1 month's salary. in order to make you more employable. So that is a new thing also in the law to be discussing. But that's very important to make the company work hard for the negotiations and also do your part in trying to find out how you can do it. And the company's action plan must also entail the planned timetable for the negotiations, the procedures to be followed in the negotiations, and the use of public employment services, job search, training, and such. So these are important. And then like I said, all the options regarding the workforce must be on the table during these negotiations, and nothing can have been decided before. If you get the feeling that things are already done and dusted, so then you can say that you think that these these change negotiations are not valid or legal, and you can also stop and say that we think that everything has already been made up and there's no point in these negotiations. And after that, we can try and get you a remuneration from the court of law for omitting these negotiations. So if you get the feeling that nothing can be done, just raise the issue, call us so we can discuss with you how to do it and what to do about it, and then see, because I've known situations where you get the feeling that nothing can be done, the company is not discussing with you, and in some cases they say that, okay, let's not negotiate, let's just wait the time. But of course that's a very bad thing to do by the company. And now there's also a new thing in the law compared with the old law, and this is that you can raise issues at the negotiations and you can have proposals for the company. So put your heads together, think about what to do, and issue these proposals and alternative solutions to the employer if you can come up with anything. Because now, if the company does not consider the proposal valid or feasible, they have to give you explanation in writing why they don't think that. So this is work for the company again. So for example, if you think that you could save money by doing something else than letting people go, then that is a good proposal to do. Or if you think that that the savings could be done by some other way, that's a good way to go. If you think that they are letting go too much people, then that is good to say, and so forth. So these are the things to raise, definitely. And then when we think about when the company has fulfilled the employer's negotiating obligation, in your case, if it concerns more than 10 people, they have to negotiate with you for 6 weeks. So it's a long time, but like said, this is time for you that is fully paid. So do not agree on otherwise on the length of the negotiations. That's not good to do. And it's 14 days in cases that it's concerning less than 10 people. Negotiations concern furloughing for a maximum of 90 days, or the number of employees employed by the employers regularly less than 30. So in those cases, you can negotiate for only 14 days, but in every other case, you have to negotiate for 6 weeks. And even if the company says that, I think we have negotiated now enough, then you can still say that, okay, but we will have the last meeting in, let's say, 4 weeks' time. because it's money to you, so don't give it away, even if they're trying to twist your arm into it. And ask for the keeping of the records, the making of the minutes of the change negotiations, because the company doesn't have the obligation to do it, which is a very stupid thing. We tried to get it in the law, and we said that it's in everybody's interest to have the minutes of the negotiations, but the employer side was like, no, it's too much to ask, which is so stupid. But please do ask for keeping the records, so that you can sort of see how things go. But if you don't agree what the company has been writing or the employer has been writing on the negotiations, don't sign it. Then you can say that this is not what we discussed. And it's also good to keep your own records from the meetings so you can compare them. Yeah, so these are sort of the things you have. The time of the negotiations, the persons who were participating in the negotiations, the results of the negotiations, or any dissenting opinions if you raise them or if the company raised them. And then after that, they can be inspected and signed, and do not agree otherwise there either. And then after the change negotiations, and when you have completed the negotiations, then the employer shall, within a reasonable time, provide the parties to the negotiations with a statement of the following. So the content of the decision considered by the employer, the number of employees who are subject to dismissals or other measures like that, the duration of any furloughs, and the period within which the employer will or intends to implement the decisions. And here it's very important to request a date when everything will be done and dusted, because in some cases people have waited for 6 months. Of course, they are working for that time, but it's mentally really hard because you know that there's something bending above your head, and you don't know when the axe will fall. So it's good to ask the final dates, and after that they have to go back to normal. So that's very important to get the date, and it is good to have this employer statement given to you in a meeting, for example, so you can ask questions and communicate with the employer. So what are they going to do? And when they say that they are going to, for example, dismiss 10 people, when will the people get the papers that they are being dismissed, or any other things that is going to happen? So it's good to have the dates and the timeline. In some cases, the companies give these the next day when the negotiations have finished, and the dismissals after that on the same day. But in some cases, it takes a long time for the company to react, and it's horrible to work under such duress at the workplace. So it's good to know when things are happening and whether they concern you or not. And then a little bit about dismissal, furloughing, turning full-time work into part-time work, or the legal grounds for these measures, just to give you a little background of what this means. And here I have quite a lot of legal issues and legal text, but this is just for you if you need to look into it more closely, or look with the people in your negotiating group or something, that you know what to expect and what kind of things to raise. And of course, in these cases, the change negotiations have to be first, and dismissals have to come afterwards. So the change negotiations have to finish before the company can resort to giving the papers for dismissals. And the employer may terminate employment contract if the work to be offered has diminished substantially and permanently for financial and production-related reasons, or for reasons arising from a reorganization of the employer's operations. But the thing here to remember, 3 things. If the company has employed a person just before or after you are being let go, that will make your dismissal illegal. Or no actual reduction of work has taken place as a result of work organization, that is also illegal. Or if the company has not looked into whether you can be retrained into something, or if there's any other job at the workplace to be offered to you. So that's very important, so that the company will look into whether they can find you another position, another work. And a little bit of furloughing also can be called temporary layoff. So this is temporary interruption of work and salary, or if you have any other work or form of remuneration, which usually is not the case, but could be. Then you will get, for this time that the company is not offering you work or salary, you can get the unemployment benefits. And then when there's again work, the employer will ask you back to work. So this is a good thing in a way that you will not lose your work. And this is a thing to be raised in the change negotiations, that instead of people being let go, could they be furloughed? So this is why I have so much text on that, because it could be important. And usually the furloughing is done for 90 days, but it can be extended. And when the company is furloughing, sorry, you need another slide. So when the company is furloughing people, they cannot hire any other people to work, or they cannot even get subcontractors or temporary agency workers to work. So they have to give you the work that is in the company. A furloughing based on financial reasons can be done so that all pitch in, so that more money can be gathered. So if it's a money issue, you can say that, okay, let's be furloughed for the summertime and let's see if you can gather more money. And if this is a company decision, you will get the unemployment benefit during that time. And then when there's more money, when there's more work, the company will call you back to work and everything will go as before. And you will not lose your holidays or anything, they will be saved. And the protocol for furloughing, I will not go into so much detail with this, but there is also a protocol that has to be followed very, very closely. So the company has to give you the furloughing notice. I think it's on the other slide. A minimum of 14 days before the furlough, and then you will get a certificate or statement from the company that you're furloughed, and you can take that to the unemployment fund, and they will pay you the unemployment benefit during that time, as normally. And if you are thinking about whether you will have the furloughing done by diminishing daily work or diminishing the weekly work, go with the weekly work and full days, because in that case you will get the normal daily allowance. In the case of diminishing daily hours, you will not get the full unemployment benefit. So it's good to have in full days. So you can have furloughing for now, for time being, or you can have it as shortened working time, if that's the option that the company is having. And then the rights and duties during the furlough. You can go and work for another company during that time if you want. Yeah, it is possible, but not competing company, directly competing. But it's a lowered level at this time for a competing company, because usually there's something you can do, and that's the work you are good at. So you can go for that. And if the company wants you back, then they call you back, and you have a special period of notice of 5 days for the other company, so you can go back. And then if you are furloughed for more than 200 days and you resign, you are entitled to a compensation that it would be as if the company would be letting you go. But these are the nitty-gritty of that, so we don't have to go into so much more detail, but you will get the presentation so you can look into if you need any other information about those. And if you are having a fixed term contract, that person cannot be furloughed, so you must get your salary. Unless the person you are temping for or replacing could be furloughed. So this is how it goes. And if you are representative of the workforce, usually a shop steward, you cannot be furloughed at all. You have to get your salary for the whole time. And by the way, also, if you have fixed term contracts, and you don't have the clause for the company to letting you go on period of notice, then the company has to pay your salary for the rest of the fixed employment, because that cannot be let go. But usually there's a clause for letting people go with the period of notice, and then it's okay to go with that. But that's certainly the legal nitty-gritty there. So a little bit about the terminating of the employment contract. Already stuff that I talked about. It's quite easy in Finland on financial and production related grounds. Very heavy or very hard on personal related grounds. So this is sort of the division in Finland, but of course in this case we are talking about the financial, economic, and production related grounds. So it's a different ball game. And when we have the change negotiations, then we're of course only talking about the financial and production related grounds for that. And yeah, then there's the obligation to replace, to place or retrain the worker. I had that on another slide too, but just to a little recap on that. And it can be either equivalent to the work that you've been doing before, and it can be on lower level too, if that sort of work is at the company available, and the employer cannot decide whether you want to take this kind of work or not. There's a legal case when a lady had been working as a physiotherapist, and then she became a doctor, and later on they didn't need doctors, but there was work for a physiotherapist, and the company decided, before asking the lady whether she would like to be a physiotherapist again, they just thought that she would not want to be a physiotherapist again, and they just let her go, but that was illegal. They should have offered her the other position too. And if such work is not available, the company has to offer any other work equivalent to employees' training, professional skills or experience, and can be lower demands too. So the company has to offer this personally, to you so that you can decide whether you want to take it or not. And if the new work requires new working duties, the company is obliged to give you a training for it, maximum of 2 months' time or so, and you can show your abilities to or your possibilities to fulfill the demands of the new work in that time. And you can also have a new trial period in the new work. But this is quite tricky. The companies don't often think about this. They just think to get rid of people, and they don't think that there could be another work for the person available. So that's quite important to offer other work. And if the company exercises control in personal matters in another company, usually a daughter company or mother company, and they have the same HR management, then the company has to widen the search for new work across the company borders. So if your company is owned by a mother company, they also have to look for the top opportunities in the mother company if they share the same HR management. So that's very important to remember. And it can be also overseas. So it doesn't only affect the Finnish boundaries, but it can also be somewhere else. So they have to ask you whether you want to move or not. They cannot decide that for themselves. And then we have the last part that can also be subject to the change negotiations, and this is changing the essential working condition of the employment contract. So this can be changing your work task, for example, or getting rid of the people below you. That happens quite often. Something, or they can change your salary for lower if they have the financial and production related reasons. But these are also the things you have to discuss in the change negotiations so that the company can do it legally. If they just do it, for example, if they would just tell you that we will diminish your salary by 1,000 euros, they cannot do that unless they have the legal grounds for also dismissing you. And a person who is offered, for example, the reduction of 1,000 euros of the salary has to also be offered the option to be let go. So you can choose whether the new agreement or whether you are let go. So those have to be on the table as such. And then, okay, now I have about the unemployment benefits and how to get them. And now I hope that you are members of the unemployment fund, because it will be much easier for you to operate on those grounds than that on any other grounds. But let's see how it goes. And first of all, when you are dismissed, and when you get the dismissal paper from the employer, you can register as a job seeker within the TE office, work and business office in Finland. And do not do that later than the first day of unemployment. But you can also pre-register online as a unemployed job seeker, and then you have that covered, because it's very important to remember to do this, because you can only get the daily allowance either from Kela or from unemployment fund if you are already registered as a job seeker. And you must be available at the labor market at the time and keep your job search valid all time whilst unemployed in order for the daily allowance. Sorry, I'm on the next slide. In order for the daily allowance to be granted. So this is very important to remember to do. Because if you don't do this in 6 months' time, you will not get any money, either from the state or from the unemployment fund. And here's a link to the services of the the office. And the next thing is the earnings-related daily allowance, which you will get if you are a member of the unemployment fund, which we have KOKO-kassa, KOKO employment fund, and they are distributing also government money, but they are also distributing money from the members. So the difference in the money you get from the unemployment fund and from Kela is very, very big. So from Kela, I have a little statistics at the end, which will show that it's not a lot of money you get from Kela, but from the unemployment fund, you will get okay sum of money, I would think. And in order to be getting the earnings-related daily allowance, you must have been a member of the unemployment fund for at least 26 weeks. This is called the membership condition. And then employment condition is that you have to have been employed for a total of 26 calendar weeks in a 28-month period. And if you have studied, this time of 28-month period will extend to a maximum of 7 years. So this means that you can try and gather the employment condition during your summer holiday work. So in that you can have the breaks because of your studying, for example, in the middle. And you must have been working for 18 hours a week, and the monthly salary must have been at least this year 1,283 euros. So when these are fulfilled, you are entitled to earnings-related daily allowance. And one thing to remember, the employment condition must be met during while you are a member of the unemployment fund. So I had a guy calling me last week, and he said that, yeah, I would like to resign on the basis of my trial period. There were a lot of things wrong at the company. And then when we started looking into it, he wasn't a member of the unemployment fund. So there was no point in him quitting his job. So he said that he will have to stay there for 26 weeks more, like half a year. So, and then he doesn't even have his trial period left, but still he can leave the job on other grounds, so that he will be entitled to the earnings-related daily allowance. I don't know how that happened, because he had been a member with us for a long time, and he had even been sent a form to change the unemployment funds, but he had forgotten to do it, so he had fallen out of the cycle. Usually when you are a member of, for example, game makers, you are also a member of the unemployment fund, but that is good to check so that you are entitled to that. And then when you get your, I will maybe have this slide first. So when you apply for the daily allowance, you will go to KOKO-kassa page. So you can do it electronically. And in this case, you have to be unemployed job seeker in order to be able to apply for the daily allowance. In 2009, when we had the big financial crisis all over the world. It took a really long time to get the daily allowance. I think we were something like half a year late, so people were not having their money. And then we set up a system of loaning money to the members from the union, which worked well, so that you would not be without the money. But nowadays it's quite quick. You get the money from the unemployment fund, so no troubles like that, even at the time of Corona. So that went well. You can have them in paper form if you want, but I guess for gamers, game makers, we don't have to go through the paper form situations. But then you send in the application form, and you can do that already after 1 week of being unemployed or furloughed. And in the form, it's on daily basis, and then you just write on the form unemployed, 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 unemployed. And if you're, for example, furloughed for 1 week, 3 days per 1 week, from Monday to Wednesday you're furloughed, you say furloughed, 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 and Thursday and Friday working. So that is sort of how it goes. And here also you have to send in the application no later than 3 months from the day you want the daily allowance to be paid. Applications older than 3 months are rejected. One time I had a guy who went traveling when he got sacked, and he forgot to do this, and then he didn't get the money. And that was really tricky because he had been sort of traveling on the daily allowance money in advance, and then he didn't get it because he forgot to apply for it. So that's very important to remember. And it's okay to send in the application. The annexes can be added later. So that is how it works. And then when you apply for it, there is a waiting period at first, which is luckily only 5 days. So you will be 5 days without the daily allowance. And it's only retained once during the maximum daily allowance period of 300, 400, or 500 days. In the olden times, a couple of years ago, it was everybody 500 days. But then we got a new government who diminished the time to 300 or 400 days. Usually it's 400 days for people who have been working for more than 3 years, but under that it's 300 days. And it's paid 5 days per week. So the 400 or 300 days is lasts quite a long time when you divide it with 5. And the 500 days you get when you are older. So I guess in game makers, nobody's going to get 500 days because I think it requires something like you being 50 and having worked for 25 years or so. And this is always set for one time for one employment condition that is met. So if you work during your when you are a job seeker, you can also earn a new employment condition. So that is how it goes. And I guess this is actually my last slide. I went quicker than I thought, but this is the difference between, in Finnish, but I guess it's quite easy to figure out, the difference between the earnings related daily allowance and the normal unemployment allowance from Kela. So from Kela, it always stays the same. So it's a little bit more than 500 euros per day, not per day, that would be quite nice sum for a month. But with the earnings related, it goes until 3,000, quite steeply up, and then it goes more leniently, but you will get much more money than you would get with the Kela unemployment benefits. So that's my presentation, and then I have a few things for you still here. So KOKO-kassa website, Milla's email. So if you need anything, email Milla or me. and our customer service. So if you need career advice or legal counseling, so you can send your requests or questions if you're members to our customer service. We will help you. If you have legal counseling, I guess it will come to me. And many times it comes through Milla, the legal counseling to me, also working really well. And then I have the Employment Contracts Act translated into English in the link, so you can go and check that if you need. The new corporation law is not yet translated into English, so you only have my translations in the presentation. And there you have also my contact information if you should need that. And I put myself the lawyer of Game Makers of Finland.
Yeah.
As it goes. But
Awesome.
yeah, thank you for Mihail and for Nick. I hope he's still with us.
Yeah.
online.
Yeah, he is. And we didn't receive any questions during this, but now it means that I will stop the recording and then we will have a chat maybe here. And thanks for everyone who's been watching this recording and been online. So
Yes,
thank you.
Thank you.